Joining us right here in the studio, Dr. Fadi Essmaeel, a former senior congressional staffer and now a research fellow at the International Institute for Counter-Terror. Fadi, great to have you here with us.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Bigger picture, we have throughout the course of this show heard things from the UN envoy to Syria warning against Russia's offensive. We've heard from Russia and Syria, both very sort of defiant. Where is the U.S. in all of this, and what seems to be a sure offensive coming in an area that has 3 million people living in it?
Actually, more like 4 million, because we have taken into account the recent moves from southern Syria into the north.
Seeking safety in Idlib.
Yes, and it's really not a very safe place. Look, there are some clues that can help us understand what's going on. On a tactical level, we can see where Russia and Syria are using some air raids and so on. There is an attack on the Idlib province. It's mostly through artillery and air raids, and we see the spots where they do it, mostly on the western and northern part of the province. That gives us a clue that whatever they're going to do right now will be focused on the major autostrade. There's a big autostrade that goes from west to east to west, and there are some main areas, passageways that they might go for. The issue of going to a full-blown attack on Idlib is very complicated. As I said, there's between 3 and 4 million civilians there, almost 20,000 terrorists, who right now are busy killing each other. So that's kind of a positive for the attackers. They might want to wait a little more, let them dilute themselves a little more. It isn't one group there. There are several groups under different names. And the main issue is, even if the rebels, so to speak, decide that they want to lay down the weapons, the Syrians are smart enough to know that they can simply reshape themselves under a different name, and they're trying to avoid that. So now there's a lot of a combination of tactical points, like I made before, with some small political trickery, political trickery that's going on here. So where is the United States in all of this? The U.S. is probably the only party here who is not under pressure. The main players, Turkey, Iran, Russia, and Syria, who are all under American sanctions, by the way, they're all under pressure. Economic pressures mostly, but also military pressures, and they're all bleeding. The only entity in the game who is not bleeding and can basically wait it out for as long as it takes is the U.S.
But waiting it out means allowing potentially a mass murder to happen. We saw what happened in Dara, we saw in eastern Aleppo, we saw in eastern Ghouta. I mean, does the U.S. have a responsibility?
Here's a question. Is the American people ready to send American troops into an area where you have at least four major armies and dozens of small terrorist groups fighting each other? Are we ready to send our boys and girls to do something there? That's a question. We are stabilizing eastern Syria, east of the Euphrates, and that's a decision. That's basically the agreement between us and the Russians. We'll take the eastern part of the Euphrates, stabilize it under Kurdish and Arab rule right there, and it's not going to be separated from the future Syrian state. All they're asking is not to live again under the kind of dictatorship they lived under before the war. So that's the role of the U.S. in all this. More important than why are we doing this, where's the American interest? Because that sits right there on the land corridor that the Iranians are trying to create all the way to the Mediterranean Sea and to the northern Israel. So we are really messing up Iranian plans there, which is the intent right from the start.
So the U.S. is warning against this attack, warning Moscow against this attack in Idlib. The UN is saying that Staffan de Mistura might visit the humanitarian corridors there and make sure that aid is reaching civilians.
Yes.
Israel wants Moscow to push Iran out of Syria. Any chance Moscow will comply with any of these demands from any of these parties?
Well, the warning was about using chemical weapons and doing things of that sort. Well, I mean, that's one thing. I'm talking about the American warning to Russia. Iran will not leave Syria. They can't. I mean, they have spent so many billions of dollars and lost more than 1,000 soldiers there that they have to show their people that they have something to show for it. So at the very least, they need to have some kind of an economic price tag on the whole thing so that they can at least the elites can make some money out of this. That's one thing. So I don't see the Iranians leaving. It's about a lot of money for them. They cannot do it. So Israel is trying to do whatever it can. The further you send them back, I mean, it's better. One thing Iran knows now, they cannot send a big army into Syria. They just can't do it because Israel will just destroy them. But they can, and that's also a problem, station key intelligence facilities there. Some artillery, maybe some missiles, some factories. They did that in a very famous area, Wadi Jannam. Israel bombed the place to pieces, to smithereens, but they can do it more. So, you know, can Israel make it like if I get some assurance that Iran will be gone? I don't think so.